Have you ever seen the 1927 film Metropolis, directed by legendary German filmmaker Fritz Lang? No? Let me rephrase the question. Have you ever seen Star Wars? They're basically the same film but 50 years apart. Sci-fi film about a dictator's son joining a rebellion led by a courageous woman to take down the dictatorship oppressing the people who work for it. There's also a lot of similarities to Blade Runner with the themes of individuality and humanity. So now you get the gist of it. Kinda. You know what, if you have 2.5 hours to spare, just watch the movie, it's really good. Metropolis was, in a way, the inspiration for almost every sci-fi film that came after it. This being said, I think it's fair to discuss the symbolism of AI in Metropolis. In Metropolis, there is a robot called the Machine Man that can almost perfectly mimic people if given the right data. Seems familiar. It's poignant that even 95 years ago Fritz Lang could predict exactly what deepfakes and artificial replicas of real people would be used for: political manipulation and non-consensual weird sex stuff. Burlesque dancers were the weirdest sex stuff they could get away with in 1927 films. Hey, these guys seem to be enjoying it at least. Essentially, the Machine Man is replicating the rebel leader, Maria, without consent in order for it to perform acts that the real Maria would never do, and convince the people not already part of the rebellion that they're all crazy. Is this going over your head? Okay, let me rephrase it. Imagine if one day you suddenly had a clone that tried to convince everyone that it's you while doing things you'd never do. Same situation. This eerily mirrors deepfakes becoming increasingly realistic and convincing many people that certain people are doing things they would never do. The conclusion of the film sees both sides, the workers and the rich people, tearing each other apart due to the manipulation of the false Maria. I believe this is what might happen if the usage of deepfakes becomes more widespread. But that is not the only thing that I think could potentially happen if AI becomes smarter and more realistic. For many sci-fi writers, the job of the robots is initially to do menial work so the real people can relax and just do nothing all day until they're unable to do anything for themselves. This may not be realistically what would happen, as we've seen with AI-generated content. It seems as though the job of AI is to replace people in creative fields as us humans do menial, repetitive jobs. Yet again, this was predicted by Metropolis. In the universe of the film, which, according to the book, takes place only 3 years from now in 2026, the rich physically live above the workers. Yeah, real subtle, guys, as the workers do vague, repetitive work for 12-hour shifts. The inventor of the Machine Man, Professor C.A. Rotwang, yes, that's his name, did not invent the Machine Man to help the fatigued workers, but rather to replace the few people who get to work in the arts. I mean, kinda. We don't see the Machine Man explicitly replicating people in many fields of art. It only replaces dance at the time the movie takes place. Just roll with it. It'd almost certainly eventually replace all creative fields, leaving the workers to do the same repetitive work forever. Sounds familiar! Yes, this too is happening in our real world, with services like DALL-E and ChatGPT already replacing people in creative fields like 2D art, music, and writing. Despite this, the art these services create is hollow and uninteresting, leaving no real message or impact with the audience. Yet, despite these caveats, corporations see this as more financially viable than paying real artists to create meaningful work. If this continues, temper your expectations for any art you see in the future. It may not move you as much as previous works. When watching Metropolis, you may notice a lack of any, well, women. This is because in the universe of the film, the patriarchy is in full effect. The only women allowed above ground are sex workers, and the only workers seen below ground are men. In the universe of Metropolis, women are seen as nothing more than sex objects and child-bearers. Therefore, it's reasonable to assume that when the Machine Men are mass-produced, the few women will be replaced by Machine Men, thus leading to a complete lack of children being born, eventually causing the end of human life as we know it. This is not a case of the robots malfunctioning and killing all humans. These robots are functioning perfectly. Their task never changes, their method never changes. From the very beginning, the first Machine Man is an omen of death. Almost any time we see the Machine Man in the film, the soundtrack includes hints of the Gregorian Dies Irae, a composition that appears in many pieces of media that's meant to signal death. If AI does eventually spell the end of humanity, it'd probably come about in a different way. I'm not the one to ask how that may happen, but it is a testament to the idea that when attempting to create something as smart as a human, always prepare for the absolute worst. It may not turn against us. Perhaps it was told to eradicate us from the beginning. In conclusion, even 95 years ago we knew the dangers of AI, many just refused to listen. In a review of Metropolis from when it first released, H.G. Wells himself said, "The whole aim of mechanical civilization is to eliminate the drudge and the drudge soul, but this is evidently regarded as very dreadful and impressive by the producers, who are all on the side of soul and love and such like." Which, in case you didn't understand that late 1920s speak, essentially boils down to, but robots are supposed to get rid of menial labour, not the arts. This is unrealistic and terrible. Nowadays, Metropolis has had a critical reappraisal, with many calling it one of the greatest silent films of all time, myself included. But yet, the message still falls flat for many, with some people using AI to improve the film by colorizing it and interpolating it from 24 frames per second to 60 frames per second, which, in my opinion, completely misses the point of the work. But what now? With AI on the rise and people constantly feeding the machines, where do we go from here? No one truly knows with 100% certainty if AI will destroy life as we know it. But what we do know is how we can prevent it from reaching more people. So the next time you want to fudge an email or generate soulless images, don't. Don't feed the machines, people. For all we know, they might function exactly as they were designed to replace us.